Are you struggling on how to close the construction deal? Well, I'm going to share with you the 5 things I think every contractor needs to do to make sure that they seal the deal. We're going to jump right into this one, and the first thing you have to break the ice. You have to get their guard down and let them know that you are there to help them, not take advantage of them. The unfortunate reality in our world is they're expecting you to not be a person of integrity, and we all know that that's not the majority, but it's the vision. So walk in, give them a compliment, ask them a question about them. The minute you get them talking about themselves, they stop thinking about how they need to defend themselves against you, the nasty contractor, and it gets the deal going in the right direction from the first part of the conversation. The second thing is build rapport. And this isn't just have some meaningless conversation with them about their dog or their sick parent, because we've all been there and you're 90 minutes into a sales call and realize we haven't talked about anything of what I'm here for. So building rapport for me is targeted around understanding their decision process. Who's involved, what the timeline is, what their criteria is, when they plan to do it, and having just a normal conversation like you were talking to your friend about project they were doing. Hey, who's involved? What are you considering? How are you determining who your final decision maker is? When is it going to happen? These are great questions to start having just a normal conversation with them, but really starts to break down that wall of their hesitation of working with you and builds that rapport with them, but also in a positive and productive way, so you get information you need that we'll utilize later in the process. So number 3 is collect information. You're gonna say, well, of course, Mike, I need to get the information to quote the deal, but it's about how you do it. And it's about collecting information, but also giving them value-added suggestions. When you go through the meeting and you're just taking notes, not really giving feedback, the client's gonna take control of this situation. If while you're getting information from them, you're giving them value-added suggestions or letting them know that what they want to do won't work in their scenario and why. But then also making sure you collect contact information, not just what their phone number, email, name is and what the other decision makers and who they are and what their involvement is, but also what is their best or preferred form of communication. This will help you a lot on the back end with follow-ups if you know how they want to be communicated with. So it's not just collect information about the scope of work, but it's also who's involved and how they want to be communicated with. So number 4. Number 4 is one of the most important parts of closing the deal. I call this the soft close. You've broken the ice, you've built rapport, and you've collected information. This is when you get to really test their propensity to buy. And it's a simple question of, hey, if I can do X by Y within Z budget, because you should have collected information already, are you prepared to move forward with us? A lot of times you can't give them a price in person. Some of you can, most of you cannot. You got to go back and go through your proposal or estimate creation process. So if you're in person, soft close, have a little more conversation, then get to the close. But if you're in a situation where you have to collect information, go back and build an estimate, this is where you understand what their objections might be or what your competition is. Simply saying, hey, if I can do everything that you talked about in the time frame that you wanted me to do it in, within the budget range that we discussed, are you prepared to move forward with us? And you might say, yeah, great, you're the person we're going with, no problem at all. If you can do all that, we're ready. Or you might say, hey, I got to talk to my husband about it. Or hey, we're getting a few other quotes. Or actually, I'm kind of leaning in the direction of somebody else right now. If you do that part effectively, you'll understand what you're going up against, will allow you to cater your presentation or cater your objection overcoming or cater how you say things to put yourself in the best place to close the deal. If you never ask them if they're prepared to do business with you, you'll never truly understand their objections, because we've all seen it. Everybody's a friend until it's time to sign a check and pay you for something. And then their priorities start to come out. Well, this pushes them to that conversation a little bit sooner so that you can uncover what you need to do to differentiate yourself to overcome those potential objections. So number 5 is potentially, in my opinion, the most important part of the entire conversation. When you end this in-home meeting, you have got to reverse engineer their priorities into a timeline and set defined next steps with who owns the next step and what the deadline is. And what that looks like is, from a conversation perspective, is say, so you said you want to have this done by the end of next month. Well, to have that started in time, or to have that done in time, we need to be started by the first week of next month. So I'm going to get you a proposal next Wednesday, and I'll follow up with you on the following Monday just to make sure that you have all your questions answered so that I can get a decision in time so that we can start to be completed by your deadline. You're using a lot of the information they gave you in the earlier part of that, building rapport, breaking the ice, collecting information, to control the sales process within their time frame. And this is the most important part. When you're setting next steps, do it. Ask for the sale like we talked about, the soft close, but then use their timeline, but your process. So you control what next steps happen. They control when it happens based on whatever their decision timeline is, whatever their process is, or however they're approaching it. So you need to make sure that you understand that. And if you're going through an entire sales process and leaving without understanding their timeline, you are going to run into that hamster wheel of when to follow up. Check my other video about how to create a follow-up process. But in this case, this setting next steps is the fifth and final step in a sales call to guarantee you the most likelihood to close the deal. Again, you got to break the ice. You got to build rapport. You got to collect information about the scope and who's involved, how they want to be communicated with. You got to do the soft close, ask for the deal, and then you got to set proper next steps. And again, you control what happens next. They control when. If you do that effectively, you'll significantly increase your likelihood of closing the deal. Please subscribe to the channel. Comment below if you have any questions about this or some best practices you've used that I might have missed, so that we can continue to get better as an industry. Don't forget, win fast and win often.